Hello, and welcome to this game overview of Azul, a strategic tile game for 2 to 4 players, ages 8 and up. The version of Azul that we will be using for this video is the classic, but if your version doesn't look exactly like this, don't panic. It comes in many different colors and themes, but the gameplay is pretty much all the same. The object of the game is to get the most points by tiling a wall with a specific tile pattern. By choosing tiles carefully and always planning 3 steps ahead, you can come out on top with perhaps not the most complete wall, but the most point-worthy one. To set up, each player should get a player mat with the colorful wall facing up. The blank wall is for a more challenging variation of the game that you can check out in the rules. Each player should also get a little black cube to track their points on the point tracker up here. Next, grab the round factory displays and place them at the center of the play area in a circle. 5 of these factory displays should be used for 2-player games, 7 for 3-player games, and all 9 for a 4-player game. All 100 of the tiles should be placed in the bag, except for this first player tile. Give this tile to the person who has most recently visited Portugal, or decide the first player some other way and give it to them. The first player should reach into the bag without looking and place 4 random tiles on each of the factory displays. Now you're ready to start. The first player places the first player tile in the center of the table, and the first round begins. The game is played over multiple rounds that consist of the same 3 phases. First, the factory offer phase. On their turn, the active player chooses all the tiles of the same color from any one factory display, and then moves the remaining tiles from this factory display to the center of the table. As tiles build up in the center of the table, players can choose to take all the tiles of the same color from the center of the table instead of a factory display. This certainly opens up many more options and a higher likelihood of getting more of the same tiles. However, the first player who chooses from the center must also take the first player token. This means that on the next round, they are in charge of loading the factory displays and starting off the round, but they must also put the first player tile on their floor line down here. Notice that this means during the scoring phase, they must deduct 1 point from their score. Once a player chooses the tiles they want, they add the tiles they choose to one of the 5 pattern lines on their player board. The tiles are placed from right to left. The first line has 1 space to hold 1 tile, and as you can see, the 5th line has space to hold 5. If there are already tiles in a given line, you can only add more tiles of the same color to that line. Once all the spaces in that line are filled, that line is considered complete. If you have picked up more tiles than you can place in your chosen pattern line, you must place the excess tiles on the floor line. This phase continues until there are no more tiles on the factory displays or in the center of the table for anyone to choose. At any time throughout this phase, if you have to pick up tiles that you cannot use, you must place them in your floor line from left to right. These tiles are considered having fallen on the floor and broken. Sometimes it's just bad luck and you have to sacrifice some tiles, and other times it's the end of the round and players are forced to pick up groups of tiles they cannot use. This is really where some of the strategy and planning comes in handy. The next phase is the wall tiling phase that all players carry out simultaneously. Go through your pattern lines from top to bottom, moving the rightmost tile of each completed line to the space of the same color in the corresponding line of your wall. As you do, you count your points immediately. Follow along with me as I count this player's score for this round. First line is complete, so I slide the light blue tile over to the matching space on the wall. 1 point. The second line is complete, so I slide the rightmost tile over to the matching space on the wall. Because it is directly adjacent to the light blue tile, it counts as 2 points. I go back to the line and discard the remaining black tiles into the bag. Third line is also complete. I take the rightmost tile and slide it over. This time it isn't adjacent to any existing tiles, so it's only 1 point. I put the rest back in the bag. The 4th line is incomplete, so I leave the tiles there. The 5th line is complete, so I slide the rightmost tile over, also only worth 1 point. On the floor line there is 1 tile, so I need to remove 1 point. Total for this round was only 4 points. Let's fast forward a bit to the scoring of the next round, where the player has ended in this configuration. First line, no adjacent tiles, 1 point. Second line, there are 2 adjacent tiles. Notice there's 1 horizontal and 1 vertical. So that counts as 1, 2, 3 points. third line is incomplete. The fourth line is now complete. It wasn't complete the first round, but now it is. So we slide it over, and it does have adjacent tiles. So this is 1, 2, 3 points. The fifth line slides over, and similar to this blue tile, I count 1, 2, 3, 4 points. And because there are 2 tiles in the floor line, I have to take away 2 points, so the total gain here was 9 points. You can see how it's important to start at the top and move your way down, counting your points as you go. Because the more lines, vertical or horizontal, get made, you gain different amounts of points. Once everyone has counted their score, the final phase begins with the person with the first player token resetting all the factory displays. Once everything's reset, the next round begins, similar to the first, with the first player placing the first player token in the center of the play area and choosing their first tiles. As rounds continue, it is important to note that there are only one type of each tile in each line. That means you cannot have more than one light blue tile in this first line, for example. So, picking up one while your board looks like this would automatically send that tile to the floor. Rounds continue with each phase until one player has completed a horizontal line of 5 consecutive tiles during their wall tiling phase. Everyone finishes tiling their wall for that round and tallying up their score, and then the end game phase is initiated. During this phase, everyone gets to count up some additional points. Anyone who has completed horizontal lines gets 2 additional points per line. Anyone who has completed a vertical line gets 7 extra points per completed line. And anyone who has managed to collect 5 of the same type of tile gets an additional 10 extra points for each set of 5 that they have completed. Azul is a great tile game for a budding gamer. As the phases are short, the concept is easy to grasp for newer players, and yet there is so much planning involved for those who want to come out on top. Sometimes needing to sacrifice some tiles to the floor or thinking 5 steps ahead by counting how many tiles there are on display and how many you can feasibly gather. Our box expert could not get enough of this box, thoroughly enjoying the scritches and the perfect cat size. If you'd like to get your copy of Azul or browse all the different colors and themes that exist for the game, be sure to check out the Comic Hunter or thecomichunter.net. Happy gaming!